Hello, my name is David Foley, and today I'm going to be presenting to you my capstone titled The Ultimate Portable Practice Guitar. Let's get started. This story begins 7 years ago. At this time, I'd been playing mandolin for about 2 years, and I'd started playing in my church's worship band. And while I was at church, my friend introduced me to the electric guitar. Now, at first, I was a little bit hesitant, but after giving it a try, I quickly fell in love. And ever since then, I've developed a true passion for the guitar. So when it came time for me to find a capstone project, my first instinct was, of course, to design something guitar related. There was a problem. The guitar industry is absolutely massive, with 184 guitar manufacturers in the USA alone, all of them having their own designers making new guitar designs all the time. So how could there be possibility for anything new? Well, in my search for a good project, I started combing my brain for past negative experiences I had had with guitars, till finally I came across a problem I was all too familiar with, and that is traveling with a guitar. You see, me and my family, we've been traveling to Texas and back for about 8 years, and on many of those long car trips, I had taken either a mandolin or a guitar with me. So I'm very familiar with the precariousness of trying to travel with a guitar. But why is it so hard? And what is the problem? Well, guitars are quite fragile and expensive, and keeping them safe while traveling is a very stressful task. As you can see in the picture here of a Gibson Les Paul headstock, it's been snapped in half, and this can happen in a variety of ways. Oftentimes, the guitar falls over onto the neck, or it's thrown too hard by an airline employee and snaps. And there's plenty of other ways a guitar can get injured while on the road. Next, full-size guitars are quite large and awkward to store. Cases are made to be really robust and heavy, and because of this, they can be just really difficult to haul around. And finally, oftentimes there's only enough room to travel with the guitar and not any kind of amplifier. Whenever I would travel to Texas and back, I only brought acoustic guitars for this precise reason. I wanted to bring my electric, but I couldn't because my amp was too heavy and the effects pedals were going to take up too much room. So I was forced to carry an acoustic. So what's out there on the market solving these problems? Well, the first and foremost company in this space is Traveler Guitar. And up here, we have three of their most common models. We have on the left, the Ultralight Electric, which is $350. In the middle, we have the LTD EC1, which is $850. And on the right, we have the Vibrant 88 Deluxe, which is $700. Now, what's so special about these designs that makes them specifically travel guitars? Well, I'll tell you. In the red circles here, you can see the tuners of the guitar. Now, these are in a very odd place for a guitar. Instead of having them up at the headstock, what Traveler Guitar does to save on space is they cut off the headstock and move those tuners to the body of the guitar. And what this does is it allows them to really shrink the size of the guitar. And then on top of that, they shrink the size of the body of the guitar as well. Now, what are some benefits to this? Well, they're very portable and there's no setup required. What's no setup required means is that you don't have to assemble the guitar once you get to where you're going. Next, the guitars have full-scale necks, which means that the necks on these travel guitars are just as big as a regular full-size guitar. And they have quality electronics. But what do they not get right? Well, they're not affordable. Like you saw, that one guitar in the middle was $850. That's very expensive. And one of the main reasons people don't want to bring their regular guitar is they want a cheaper guitar that they can not be afraid for it to get kind of damaged and scratched. But if it's just as expensive as the regular guitar, it kind of defeats the purpose. Also, most models of the Traveler guitars are not very well balanced, which means that when you reduce the size of the body of a guitar and keep the size of a full-scale neck, the guitar becomes unbalanced and it wants to tip over whenever you're holding it, which isn't very comfortable to play. And also, they're not very aesthetic. And the reason they're not aesthetic is that a lot of times they try and keep the design really utilitarian. And while this keeps the guitar small, it's not as fun to play when it's an ugly guitar. Also, they're not resistant to damage. Even though they remove the headstock, which helps, if you hit this guitar on a chair leg or you drop it, it's still going to get hurt. So what other options are there in the marketplace other than Traveler Guitar? Well, here are three very popular options. I've played all six of these guitars that I've shown you so far. And I have played the Hofner Shorty, which is $200. I've played the Martin Backpacker, which is $300. And I've played the Vorsen S-Style Guitar Lely, which is $140. Now, what's different about these than the Traveler guitars? Well, the way they try and solve these problems is by shrinking the size of the guitar neck. So instead of a full-size neck, they shrink it down about half. And they also shrink down the size of the body. And what this does is it makes for a very, very compact design. So what are some benefits? Like I just said, they're very portable, very small. There's no setup required, and they're a lot more affordable than the traveler guitars. And they have acceptable electronics. Some problems that are not addressed by these travel guitars, though, is that they have exposed headstocks, which leads to them having the same kind of injuries that we saw in that first photo with the Gibson headstock that was broken in half. They're also, with that reduced price, they're a cheaper quality, and this means that they're less reliable. And they're also extremely unbalanced. In fact, so much so that whenever I played these guitars in person, if I had not had a strap with me, they would have been unplayable. And just like traveler guitar, they're not very damage resistant. So who are buying these guitars? Well, to answer this, I went online and saw the reviews and just read hundreds and hundreds of them and compiled this list of some of the most common use cases: regular practice, quiet practice, vacations, plane travel, a compact guitar to play at home, a guitar to play at work, a guitar to take while trucking, a guitar to take while watching TV, a guitar to play with headphones. They can't play a full-size guitar for whatever reason. They want to play in a hotel room. They don't want to bother others. They want to practice during their commute, motorcycle travel, and camping. But then it was at this point in my research that I noticed something really interesting going on with the data. Contrary to what I previously thought, a lot of guitar players are not using travel guitars exclusively for long distance travel. Let's take a look at that list again. I've highlighted some of the most common use cases that I found that were surprising to me: regular practice, quiet practice, compact guitar to play at home, a guitar to play at work, a guitar to play while watching TV, a guitar to play with headphones plugged in, a guitar to play quietly in hotel rooms, and finally, a guitar that will allow them to not bother others. So many guitar players are using guitars designed for long distance travel as compact at-home practice guitars. But why is this so? Well, as with many things these days, I think the answer might originate with the pandemic. So during the pandemic, the guitar industry saw a massive boom. Guitar sales increased by 15% from 2019 to 2020. In 2020, $1.6 billion worth of guitars were sold in the USA. And 16 million people started playing guitar over the course of the pandemic. 16 million. And 20% of those 16 million new players were under the age of 24. So what does this mean? Well, like we all know, due to the pandemic, many people were spending a lot more time at home, and they were picking up hobbies, and 16 million people decided to pick up the guitar as a new hobby. And if you know anything about playing guitar for the first time, you know that you don't sound good when you first start playing. And being confined with your family members, you don't want to have to practice around them and annoy them. So they desire a way to practice around family without bothering them with all of the noise of their practice. And finally, people want to play in many diverse areas of the home. Some people want to play sitting on their bed or on the couch or even on the floor. And some people, like me, just like to walk around the house with a guitar and practice and think. So what attributes would the ideal portable practice guitar have for this demographic? Well, I think it would need to be compact. It would need to be easy to play, self-contained, portable, and resistant to damage. So after I made these design guidelines, I made a brief, and the brief was this: design a portable electric practice guitar that is optimized for effective practice anywhere. Now, after developing the brief, I made a guitar specification sheet to give me a nice framework to begin designing this guitar. I wanted this guitar to have a full-scale neck length so that as a practice guitar, it would be comparable to a normal size guitar. Next, I wanted it to have a humbucker pickup. It would need to have internalized onboard tuning. And this is to keep everything very condensed, where you don't have to have a separate tuner. The tuner is built into the guitar, which makes it very convenient. No setup required, of course. Keep it simple with one volume knob and one tone knob. It would be headphone compatible, so you could plug in your headphones to this guitar, and you could hear yourself play, but no one else would have to hear you play. It would need to be resistant to damage, have no headstock so that we can keep that body length very short, and keep the body material made out of wood. Next, it was off to ideation. To begin ideating, I really wanted to free my mind from preconceived notions of what a guitar body should look like. So I came up with a lot of crazy forms, and the highlighted ones I thought really had some promise. But as I evaluated them further, I realized that there was nothing really new or special about these, except that they were new forms. And especially, there was nothing that would keep these guitars from being damaged just like any other guitar that we've seen before, until I had an idea. Now, what if a guitar was designed, say, like an OtterBox? Now, when I was a young teen, I had an iPod Touch, and I had an OtterBox for my iPod Touch. And that OtterBox did such a good job protecting my little iPod that I could drop it on the ground and it would bounce off the floor without a single scratch. And all of my friends who didn't have an OtterBox were dropping their iPods and breaking their screens all the time. But not me. I had the OtterBox. And so, what if a guitar had a rubberized coating just like an OtterBox that would protect them from fall damage, from being bumped against door frames, to be protected against if they're thrown by an airline employee, that would just keep them safe and durable. So I started ideating on that idea, and I came up with some of these forms that you see right here until I landed on the form on the far right. And I think this on the form on the far right really caught my attention because I think it has a really unique look that hasn't been seen on any other guitar before. But as well as looking good, I think it also has a very good functionality. As you can see, every corner of this guitar is protected by that rubberized coating. And it has that scoop in the side so that it sits very comfortably on your leg. And it has that flat bottom so that it can lean up against the things on the wall and be stable while it's sitting on the floor. So after deciding on this form, it was time to see how it would look like after I added some of those specifications that I had on the sheet. So I added the headless neck with the full scale length, the rubberized coating, the humbucker pickup. I added the in-body tuning system and the setting control panel where you would plug in the headphones. And I still liked how it looked. And so I thought it was time to develop the idea further. And to do that, I took that drawing I just showed you that's there on the left, and I refined it into what you see there on the right. And I measured everything out. I did a lot of measuring on different guitars to make sure that all the features I wanted would be able to fit in this body shape. And they were. So then it was time to really develop how this guitar would be laid out. And as you can see, the front of the guitar is there on the left and the back of the guitar is there on the right. And how this guitar would work is the strings come over the fretboard, as you can see on the left, over the pickup, over the bridge, and go into those rollers that you see at the very bottom of the guitar. They would then roll through those rollers and come up the back of the guitar, as you can see in that picture on the right, and attach to the tuners. And what this allows this guitar to do is to be just as short as the Traveler guitars and keep them very portable. Next, it was time to do some initial foam mock-ups. And my first foam mock-up was very small, and I just wanted to see how the surfaces of this guitar would interact with each other. And I really liked how it went. So then I moved to doing full-scale foam mock-ups. What these allowed me to do was to really feel what the guitar was going to feel like in the hands and sitting on my leg and what the balance might end up being. And I liked how it went. And as I would develop these foam prototypes, I would also develop the drawings more. And I would go back and forth, refining and refining, until finally I came to this set of drawings. And then I realized something. The guitar didn't really look that good. One of my goals with this project was to make the guitar look good. And because of the tuning system of this guitar, everything had to be compressed at the bottom of the guitar, like you can see. The pickups and the bridge and the rollers are all very cramped together. And I could only really get one volume knob on the guitar, which is not ideal. So I collaborated with a few people in my class and my advisor to come up with something that looked a little bit better. And I was able to refine my design. And the component that allowed me to do that was this, the Geiger 6-string saddle. This is a cool piece of guitar tech that's relatively new. And what it is it's a bridge and a tuning system all in one. And how this works is it attaches to the bottom of the guitar. The strings go over those rollers and attach to the tuning system. And with those knobs you see at the bottom, you can then easily tune the guitar. And as you can see in these refined set of drawings, you can see how much extra room is on that guitar body. And that'll become more important later when we get into the production model of this guitar. Next, it was time to figure out what to do with the electronics of this guitar. And you can see that highlighted in that red circle. This would be where the onboard tuner is, where the effects of the guitar would be, and where you would plug in your headphones. In my research, I found this cool piece of tech. This is the Fender Mustang Micro. It's an all-in-one headphone amp and USB audio interface. And how it works is you plug it into your guitar, and using those buttons on the side, you can choose between 12 different amps and 13 different effects types. And you plug in a pair of headphones, and you can hear those amps and effects through the headphones, but to everyone else around you without the headphones, they don't hear a thing. I thought this was the perfect piece of tech to incorporate into my final design. So from here, I made a final foam prototype, and I added a really cool storage compartment to the top of the guitar where you could store your guitar picks and not have to go running around the house looking for whenever every time you want to play. They would always be right there at the top of the guitar. Next, it was time to do my final prototype. And to do this, I had to source parts, many of which I bought and many of which I also took off of other guitars that I had. I then made a refined set of drawings and made sure that all of the sizing and proportions were correct. And after I was satisfied with those, I then cut those out into stencils that I then used to draw the line work onto 2 sheets of plywood. At this point, I want to give a special thanks to John Losco and Ron Thomas for letting me use their shop. Without them, this project wouldn't have been possible, and especially my final prototype would not have been possible. And as you can see there, in their shop, there I am, I'm cutting out the wood, and we did a lot of carving out of those electronics cavities. Here's some more of that. We clamped it down, drilled it out. And then after we drilled out those electronics cavities for the pickups and all the wiring, then we glued those 2 halves of the guitar together. And while that glue was drying, we then worked on the neck of the guitar. And to work on the neck and to keep it short, we cut off the headstock and attached this cool piece of hardware here in this picture on the right that holds the strings. Here you can see the finished rough body shape, and then it was time to make the guitar pretty. And to start that process, I sanded the body, and then I dry fitted the components to make sure everything fit, and also to check the alignment of the guitar to make sure that it was going to be playable after I had finished everything. I then taped off the guitar and spray painted a few coats of a protective enamel that would act as a stand-in representation of that thick rubberized layer that would be on the final production model. I then applied a clear coat and wired the guitar. And after this, I had my fully functional prototype. And let me take you through some of the features of this prototype. In this picture on the left, you can get a nice close-up detailed view of that Geiger bridge and how it works. You can see the strings going into it, and you can see the small knobs that you would use to tune this guitar. It's very simple and very compact. You can see the volume and tone knob, and on the right picture there, you can see a Seymour Duncan Jazz 2 pickup. Traveling to the end of the guitar, here's that piece of hardware from a different view that I showed you earlier that holds the strings in place over the nut. This guitar was fully functional and could play just as well as a full-size guitar. It had a great sound and was very easy to play. Speaking of easy to play, this is my couch here in my apartment. And as you can see, that's my regular guitar there. That's a full-size guitar. And as you can see, it takes up a lot of space on that couch, which is why I don't play it on the couch very often. I don't have a very big couch. And so I usually am forced to play in my room where I have a little bit more space. However, with this new design, it's actually quite small and easy to play on a couch or anywhere. Now, after you're done playing on the couch, you might want to set your guitar down on the side of the couch. As you can see here, my full-size guitar, it sticks up above the couch quite a ways. And also with that rounded body at the bottom, it's also at risk of falling over or being damaged when feet hit it. But with this new design, you can see it barely goes over the couches and is very discreet and very stable with that flat bottom. It's not going to fall over. Next, sometimes I like to play my guitar while sitting in my bed and looking out of my window. And after I'm done, I set the guitar down. And it's kind of like playing Operation. You don't want to hit the guitar on the wall. You don't want to hit it on the nightstand because you don't want to damage any of it. And after you get it down there, it's very bulky, and you see how much the headstock sits above that nightstand. Now take a look at this new design. You can barely see it back there. It's nice and discreet. It's nice and stable. And in the production model with the rubberized coating, you wouldn't have to worry about damaging anything. So now it was time to move on to my final production model. And to do that, I made a set of blueprints and I refined everything. And there's a few differences between the production model and my final prototype. And the most obvious difference is that there's another set of pickups in the production model. And this is able to be achieved because we have that extra room after getting rid of that traveler guitar style tuning system. You can also see we also added a switch to where you could choose which pickup you want to use. You can see the pick storage at the top and the electronics at the bottom. So I'm now proud to introduce to you the Companion. This guitar, as you can see here, is called the Companion because the idea behind this guitar is that it can go with you anywhere and it's reliable. And that's the essence of what a Companion is. And that's the essence of what this guitar is. Now, this guitar is in white, but this guitar can come in any other color you want as well. It can come in green. It can come in this dark red. It can come in tan. It can come in this orange color. It can come in blue. And finally, if you're a Van Halen fan, it could even come in that pattern. So after looking at all this, let's see how we did with my design. Let's take a look at the design guidelines I set out at the beginning of this presentation. Did I achieve my goals? Is the guitar compact? Definitely. Is it easy to play? It is very easy to play. Is it self-contained? Yes. With that pick storage and the onboard tuner, it's very convenient. It's very portable, very light. And with that rubberized coating, it's resistant to damage. So we have fulfilled all of the different guidelines that I had set out for this project. And with that, I'd like to thank you for listening about my guitar project. Have a nice day.